There we go. Spawning in the bottom right corner of Ultrazoom Stronghold. Oh my goodness. From Team Arrival, it's our blue Terran. It is Doc. And his opponent. Spawning as absolutely far away from your opponent as you possibly can. In orange from CTsix, it is Guluheend. Oh, goodness. So this is a very big map. They are cross-spawn. Are we going to see the first... will we see a CC first? If there was ever a time to do it, now a time is now. CC first lends itself to this kind of a map. It's safer, but if I were Doc, I would be pretty afraid to do it, simply because it hasn't worked out. Like, the early game aggression for Guluheend has been pretty consistent in every single match, especially with Banshees. And once again, in a game that Guluheend did not go Banshee first, he lost. So I would kind of expect to see Gulu go ahead and go to that Banshee style once again, just to make sure that he doesn't lose this game. He does have, you know, he still has another chance. If he does lose this game, it would only be 3-3. He would not be finished. But, you know, you may as well do the strats that work the best for you as soon as you can. Well, slight misstep from Guluheend. He's only got 2 on gas right now. This third, the building SCV, he must have accidentally shift rallied it back. There it goes. So slight misstep, not a huge deal, but an annoyance nonetheless. Meanwhile, Doc going for his normal build. Racks into 15 gas. Gonna get 2 Marines, reactor, then a CC. No surprise. It's worked out sometimes. Should be a good game. Guluheend is scouting. That's one thing that Doc doesn't really do. He never actually scouts in the early game, it seems. He did on the last map, because he was able to, but on the 4-player maps, I don't think he's actually scouted. I know in the Frost game, he didn't actually find where Guluheend was until probably 10 minutes into the game. So, it took quite a while for Doc to have any information at all about his opponent. You know, factory on the way here for Guluheend. Still pumping out some Marines from this barracks. Normal stuff. And here we go. Tech lab on the barracks. So he's probably going to be building a starport directly onto this Rex and going for that Banshee. Let's see what he can get done. You know, first time we actually see something different from Doc. He's actually putting the CC down in the low ground, or actually down at the natural expansion. Granted, it is a little bit easier on this map to do that, but against the Banshee, it's still going to be extremely annoying to actually deal with. It means Doc's going to have to defend 2 locations of SCVs rather than just the single one. He may just end up pulling any SCV he has down at this location against the Banshees back into his main base in order to deal with it. Nice snipe off of the scout from Guluheend. So Guluheend's going to have to play blind for a little while longer. All he saw were the 2 Marines at front. He saw absolutely nothing else. So no surprise there. Well, he does have his Banshees just about ready to come out of this starport, finishing up here. CC just about to finish here for Doc. Again, nothing too surprising. It just all comes down to, how does Doc defend the Banshee? Does he defend it well? Does he defend it poorly? If he defends it well, he's probably got a good chance to win the game. But if this Banshee comes in and gets, you know, 6 or 7 kills, it's gonna be a bit of an issue, as always. And again, with the CC actually down on the low ground this time, it means Doc's going to have to defend 2 locations at once, which is going to be a bit of an annoyance for him. No engineering bay, which again, these is kind of surprising things where Doc constantly kind of struggles against these Banshees, but he just refuses to go for an engineering bay. It does not fit in his build. If he's able to actually thwart off the early aggression from Guluheend, he's in a really good spot, yes, but if he doesn't thwart off the aggression, he's in a pretty bad spot. So it's just a matter of seeing it. Luckily for Doc, again, this is an extremely long distance for this Banshee to go, and the Banshee might actually be found out by some Hellions. I'm not really sure if they're going to meet up or not. Actually, they should. They're going to pass each other immediately, so yeah, Doc's going to be able to prepare for this. If he saw the red blip or not, he should be able to figure out that the red blip was actually, you know, down in this location over in airspace. Should be able to prepare for that somehow, some way. He does have a Viking on the way. The Viking will pop out just after the Banshee gets to this mineral line, I think. but it should be enough to deal with it. Doc wisely saving up scans. He isn't dropping mules. He's got 2 scans already available, almost 3 even, so he's just going to put himself in a really nice position. Got the Viking out. Banshee's going to come in and start doing some work, but there we go. SCV's pulled to 2 are killed, 3 are killed. He's just going to wait for his scan, it seems. He's going to try to sandwich this unit. Here we go. Banshee getting on top of that, but scan right on top of the Banshee. Viking trying to go to town, not quite going to get it. Just barely, always barely not getting it. But there's another scan available, so it will go down. There we go. Banshee down. So, what was that? 3 kills this time. 3 kills for Guluheend rather than the normal 7. So, well defended by Doc. I'm not sure how wise it was to go for that Banshee on this map, but it did get a few kills. But now Guluheend is still a little bit behind here on the worker count. So despite getting the 3 kills, he is still 3 workers behind, and he doesn't have his natural C. Oh, natural C is finished up, but it's not quite yet turned over into the orbital commands. Injury Bay finished up here for Doc. Actually, there's another. I didn't even see the second Banshee. The second Banshee came in. I didn't even see it get produced in the first place. I saw a Raven come up behind it. It got 6 kills, so excuse my failure to pay attention there. So now at the 9 kills, so Guluheend actually has taken a worker lead now. So Doc, despite defending well with the first Banshee, did not defend well in the second Banshee. Which is a bit of an issue. Now there's a bit of an army movement across the map here for Guluheend. He's got 2 tanks with this. He's got this Raven. He's got a few Marines as well. He's going to be going up against a bunch of Marines and some Hellions. There is a Raven of Doc's own, but really that's about it. And once again, Doc is moving out on the map with all of his Hellions at the same time that his opponent is moving out. They're going to run directly into each other. Once again, wow, a few times this has worked out in Doc's favor, but he's going to see that and he's going to turn around. Well, he may just try to go for it and maybe delay his opponent a little bit more. There he goes. Well done by Guluheend, making sure to pull back the Marines, make sure those tanks were actually taking the shots there of the Hellions rather than the Marines themselves. You need to keep his army a little bit more alive, but Doc wisely not going to sit back and wait for this army to get to him. He's going to come out. He's going to meet this army out in the middle of the map here. He's going to try to get right on top of it, but I'm not sure if this does not work. This may actually spell the end of Doc's time here. The 2 tanks are still alive. There's nothing but an auto turret left. There's nothing but a Viking left now in this Raven. Yeah, there is nothing left up here back home for Doc. Is Guluheend actually going to siege up one of the tanks? He's going to siege one of the tanks on the low ground. SCVs are pulled the line. This is definitely for Doc's tournament life. But with the low ground tank, all of these SCVs are going to be killed. Another tank is moving across the map as well. A couple of Vikings are going to be coming out, but the Vikings aren't going to be able to do anything against these tanks. This is looking a little grim right now for Doc, and behind this, Guluheend's taking a 3rd base even. His 3rd base is down and finished. He's just adding on more and more bio. He's got his opponent dead to rights almost. Doc is about to have a tank of his own, but his starport's under fire. Absolutely everything is under fire right now. He lost a bunch more workers. 18 workers so far total killed. That makes another extra 9 workers were killed off. 3 tanks now here across the map for Guluheend. They're all sieged up in really nice locations. There's really nothing left for Doc to actually deal with this. He does land the Vikings and push this tank back briefly. At least he will be able to siege up the high ground, which is nice. He may be able to push this back now. So he will survive for the time being, but again, the question that's always fun, at what cost? 28 workers to 51 right now. 3rd base is already down. It's already being saturated by Guluheend. This looks like it's going to be just one of those matter of time situations. 86 supply to 50 right now in favor of our Orange Terran player. That early push. Doc did what he had to do. I think had he brought some SCVs with him on that initial attempt to thwart the army down to the low ground, it would have gone a lot better. But as it stands, he just did not have enough to really throw that back. And Doc kind of realizing how far behind he actually is right now. He's getting 2 command centers at the same time. He knows he needs to catch up with an SCV count. The longer this goes on, the worse it gets for him. He hasn't actually seen anything, I don't think. No, he hasn't actually seen really nothing. He knows Guluheend's here, but that's really all he knows. He doesn't know if this is, an all-in or how many bases that Guluheend actually has. I think if Doc knew that Guluheend was on 3 bases, he would not be in here. A couple more factors coming up here for Doc, but he doesn't really have the capability to produce on this right now. 34 workers total. He is going to be finishing with his 4th command center, so he's going to start dropping a lot of mules, but mules do not mine gas off a 3rd base. That's kind of the problem right now. Guluheend is setting himself up over in the north right side of this base, or of this map. Maybe just try to do some sort of doom drop onto this third base, which will be a big deal. Looks like Doc may actually just turn this fourth base, into a planetary to buy himself a little bit more time. But Guluheend is already walking into this location, and he's going to be able to siege that up. We have 4 siege tanks right now against 2 for our blue Terran player. And that's not going to go too well. And there we go. Guluheend pushing on in. This base is not long for this world. A tank is shilling with the bile, so that's nice. The Marines do have stim, so they could try and go for the CC. They're not going to, however. Guluheend loses a good amount there. And he's just going to sit back and siege up. All of the bile from Gulu has stemmed forward to come on up and join all of this. There's a nice hefty Viking count here for Doc. But he's again, there's no way for him to actually take another base in this game. Only a single take up on the high ground. Low ground vision is enough for Guluheend. Guluheend gonna be fighting some more tanks, or fighting some more SCVs with tanks. Never what you want to be doing. Doc is still surviving, 5th base on the way here for Guluheend. What's he about to have with upgrades? He's about to have +2 attack on his infantry. He doesn't have much infantry, much in the way of his infantry, but it's not much of a big deal. He's still 12 supply ahead in army supply alone. 4 tanks to his favor. Only 2 tanks out for Doc. Again, no third base down. It's going to be very, very difficult for Doc to actually even take a third base. This base is definitely sieged up. I imagine Guluheend is going to go make sure that he puts a Marine over at these other locations, just to make sure that Doc doesn't sneak out. But Guluheend slowly but surely making his way forward. A couple tanks, actually nice Viking snipe kills off a couple of units there. I think that was actually 2 tanks in that medevac, so Guluheend just lost a lot. And actually Doc is probably going to be able to actually secure his base now. Yeah. There were 2 tanks in that medevac. They got sniped off by all these Vikings here. It was a good try, good attempt there for Guluheend, but it's not going to work. He does have money to burn right now. He does have supply to burn. He does need he needs to stop throwing away some units, though. He is throwing away quite a bit at the moment. Doc doesn't really want to push his favor too much. He only has a couple tanks right now. They're getting forward into the tank line of Guluheend. He does have a Hellbat and a Hellion in his medevac, but that's really all there is. Now all the army for Doc has died off. He's trying to produce what he can, producing 2 tanks at a time and 3 Hellions at a time, but beyond that, he's got just a bunch of Vikings, and that is the entirety of his army supply right now. Doc getting just a little bit too aggressive there. Pushed out when he did not need to. Guluheend starting his 5th command center now. Starting to add in just extra barracks everywhere. He is quite in control of this game. About double the supply right now of Doc. Guluheend looking poised to take this game. Doc is definitely not going to get it to him easily. Guluheend has already made a few blunders. Losing 2 tanks in a medevac for basically nothing. Well, actually for absolutely nothing. Did not want to be doing that. If he does that a few more times, this may still go into Doc's favor, but Doc scanning, seeing this army coming his way, he knows the doom that is approaching him. He is setting up his Vikings, making sure there's not going to be just a massive doom drop, but it's not really going to be what is going to happen here, at least not for a while. 2 tanks set down by Guluheend. And now Doc's going to try to put his tanks on the low ground so he can finally try to start pushing this position out and forward. But he does have 7 tanks. That's nice. One of them is still sitting back home. There we go. 2 of them are staying back home. And more units are moving forward for Guluheend. Actually, he's going to drop not onto the tanks. He's actually going to drop onto the bio rather than dropping onto the tanks. Guluheend actually paying attention with his army. Going to lose these 2 forward tanks again. And this is, again, just allowing Doc a little bit of hope, a little bit of life in this game. Doc scans, sees the army, repositioning. Guluheend does see all these tanks over here. He does not want to go into that. That is for sure. Doc Wisey adding in. I don't know if he wants to do this, though. Okay. He's going to force some of these items, or some of these units forward for Guluheend. Going to get taken out by all of these tanks. And he's going to drop right on top of all those with his Hellbats. So Doc making some nice moves. Killing off what he can, but the worker count right now is pretty freaking ridiculous. This is like a Zerg versus something. Even a small little drop coming in over here for Guluheend. Not really much in this drop, just a few Marines and a couple Marauders. He's actually losing a bunch of medevacs to a turret for no reason. It's a little bit rough. Doc coming back home, bringing all of his Vikings with him. But in doing this, that means that his front is, well, it's pretty secure with all of these tanks. So again, this is going to be a situation of Guluheend has to find a way to break this. Last game, he was not able to break Doc, and Doc was able, 5 tanks unsieged. That's kind of the cue for Guluheend to try to go for this. He's going to get a few tanks for his trouble, but he's going to lose most of his army, and actually, there we go. That is the entire army dead here for Doc. 80 army supply to 54, 170 supply to 80 right now. Hellbat's dropping right onto the Bi army, which is nice, but there's not really much left over here for Doc inside the main base. Doc's money is just so low right now. Still 31 workers to 85. It's just absolutely ridiculous right now for Guluheend. It's this constant stream of units moving across the map. If he just waits for his max army to actually get into one location and just stim it all forward, he will eventually just take everything out. +3 for the mech army attack is on the way here for Guluheend. I'm pretty sure, yeah, only +1 is finished for the actual mech player. +3 on the way. Actually, +3 going to be finishing up here in just a second for Guluheend for all of his bio as well. He's pretty low on medevacs. Actually, he has 0 medevacs. Once again, kind of an issue. Rolling around with no medevacs is generally a bad decision. Granted, there are a few Vikings out here for Doc, but not really enough to warrant not having any medevacs at all. 85 SCVs to 41 right now. Doc's still under 100 supply. Guluheend almost maxed. Guluheend's starting to add in turrets all over the place in front. There we go. Doc's just going to go GG there, so there you have it. Guluheend is going to go ahead and take this best of 7 series here.